What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs and just those that dominate their space. Our guests are people that are choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, you guys got a very special guest on the show. Our guest today, you guys, is an extremely successful entrepreneur. This is a guy that's went out there and been able to personally create 8-figure plus companies. He's also a piano player, international race car driver, coach, founder of the successparty.com, and voice and owner admin of Jonny Hates Marketing, the Facebook group. And our guest today, you guys, is one of these brilliant entrepreneurs that's really dialed in and mastered how to go out there and market effectively. So when he says Jonny hates marketing, it's not that he hates marketing. It's just not in the traditional way. He's found effective ways to effortlessly go out there, attract your clientele, and go out there and help your business explode. So really stoked and honored to have Jonny Cooper on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Joshua, thank you. Hey, let's hope I can live up to that introduction. Hey, that was pretty sparkling, man.
I'm stoked to have you. And I know, a bit of a time difference. It's 10:30 p.m. where you're at. You've been grinding for 16-hour workdays, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that to start with if you want. I don't know whether this impresses anyone. It never used to impress me when people said they were working morning till night, But I was at a networking meeting at kind of 7 o'clock our time, which is, it's kind of heading for 16 hours ago that now. And my voice is a little croaky but good stuff happening. I did one of my group coaching programs today. One of the modules is on a Thursday. And I also enrolled kind of 2,000 quids with the clients as well, all paid up right today. So, one of the things I'm sure we'll touch on is my kind of ABO philosophy, which is always be offering, Yep. So I'm always out there hustling in the sort of Gary V sort of language, I guess. But I always try and sell something every day, try and get some money in the bank every day. And, I think that's got to be one of the foundations of success. If you're not doing something that at least gives you a chance of landing some cash in your bank today, then, what are you doing? Why did you get up this morning? Yeah. So it's that kind of day. I'm kind of patting myself on the back a bit, and it's just so cool to be here with you now. Even with the time difference, it just feels like a kind of cool, chill out way to finish the day, and just shoot the breeze and see if we can get some value out there.
Yep, no, I love it, man. And like I said, it's such an honor to have you on. I mean, it's one of these things that whatever business that you're in, the common denominator of every business out there is to go out there and market, right? To go out there, get new clients. And as you said, always be offering. And, sometimes we get so sucked into the weeds of our business and the systems and processes that we kind of take our foot off of the accelerator here. And a lot of businesses just have this roller coaster of income and they don't create that consistency. And you've just got so many strategic ways of doing this in such an effective way because what's hard about today, man, is all these different platforms that exist. All this technology, all these different social media platforms, and it's so confusing. A lot of people, I think, just
overwhelming.
Like, how the hell do I even start this? Right? But before we jump into all the different things that you're doing right now, which I'm excited about, I'm always intrigued in our guest journey that led them here, because I know that you have created some extremely successful businesses yourself. And like, how did your entrepreneur journey start in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur, even if I didn't call myself that. I recognize it. So when I left college, I was a professional musician. I play the keyboards. I still do. I have a Yamaha grand piano the other side of that door right there, if anyone's watching the video. So I still play every day. But in my 20s, I was trying to earn a living doing it. And, I was the archetypal struggling artist, a little bit more successful than some of my contemporaries, because I just realized I had to hustle. I had to tell people that I was here. No point just sitting at home practicing by myself. I had to get out on the road, knock the doors. I was in London, so there was a whole bunch of agents, all in one street pretty much. And I would just do a tour, on pretty much a daily basis if I had no gigs. knocking the agent's door saying, what do you got, man? What do you got for me today? And bit by bit, it kind of built up. But, a lot of false dawns in that industry, and you kind of do a bit here and there. And I was playing in some of the big London hotels. I mean, you guys even over in the States, I've heard of places like the Savoy and the Ritz, the Hilton Hyde Park and all that kind of stuff, the Dorchester, all those great English, landmark hotels. And we'd go in there, we'd take all our gear in. I mean, even in those days, it was like, 10,000 quid's worth of gear, $15,000 worth of equipment. You'd set it all up and, you'd get your dinner and they'd pay you like 100 quid or something. And you'd go and, I had the oldest car you could ever imagine. I think I paid like 400 quid for this car and it was absolutely broken, it didn't work very well. And I did that for 5 years and I was getting into my late 20s and I just thought, you know what, if I applied myself in pretty much any other industry, I'd be making a whole ton of money right now. And, there's a great lesson there really that it isn't enough just to hustle and just be determined and just to believe in yourself. And it's certainly not enough to be talented, when there are struggling, starving artists all around the world. What you have to do is you have to do something that people are willing to pay you for.
Yeah.
And that was like the first fundamental lesson that I've carried through now. It's actually one of my pillars of effortless marketing now. Don't just do what you want to do, what you're passionate about. Do something that people are going to pay you for and there's actually a demand for. And it sounds a really simple thing, but I bet there's people listening to this podcast thinking, geez, maybe what I'm doing suits me and I'm good at it, but there ain't enough people out there willing to pay me for it. And that could well be the missing link. So I discovered that in my 20s, as I said, and I got into sales by accident. So I just, I met this guy who said, hey, I'm one of these £1,000 a week closers. I don't know if you guys had this in the States, but there was a phase where you'd see a small ad in the newspaper and it would say, in the classifieds, it would say, closers wanted. £1,000 a week. I thought, okay, that's 50 grand a year. That's pretty cool. That was like, 5 times what I was earning as a musician. And I had no idea what a closer was. So I went along to this interview, this crazy interview. And this guy turned out was selling, do you have like double glazing over there? Do you know what that is?
Uh-uh.
This is like windows, replacement windows.
Okay.
For your homes. Do you not do that in the States? This is like where you tear out the old windows, that are leaking and cracked and rusty and all that, and you replace them with plastic double glazed units,
Okay, yeah.
And it typically runs about 20,000 quid basically to do all the windows in your house. And we were just going door to door, making sales here and there and getting rejected 99 times out of 100, So it was a good grounding in how the world really works, and what actually drives wealth and creates entrepreneurs, because the guy I was working for, the guy who owned my business, was a multimillionaire, So I got a flavour for that, and then I got pushed into financial services, selling pensions and investments and that. And this is kind of 95, so we're pretty much in the at least in the recent era. And this is when I started growing my business, because I teamed up with a pal of mine, and we both had a vision to reach our ideal clients in the financial services business by writing for local newspapers. So 1995, bear in mind, was just pretty much pre-internet, right? So you had a website, but it was just like an online brochure, And we wrote a column which we syndicated around like 120 newspapers around the country. So weekly local newspapers, yeah. And it was a question and answer column. We made up the questions and we answered them. And bit by bit, we got people calling in, and eventually by like 98, 99, so 4 years into the business, we had 25 staff in a call center just answering incoming calls, incoming inquiries for pension advice, investment advice, that kind of stuff. And on the back of that, then we grew a business with 85 financial advisors, pretty much 120 other staff. So, just over 200 staff altogether. And that was the 8-figure dream business. You know, we built that to £10 million turnover. We made £1 million net profit in 2003. And we sold the business. We got an offer, you know, to get rid of it, to get out. And it felt about right. You know, the regulators were getting more and more intense. There was more and more layers of compliance that we had to do every day. It was just a ball ache. So we sold the business in 2003, and, you know, I became an accidental coach because some of the corporate clients who were dealing with us just wanted to stay in touch with me, wanted me to help them with their businesses because they could see how we'd grown ours. They could see we'd exited with quite a successful outcome. So, you know, I got dragged into advising on exit strategies, HR, business growth. And then, you know, in the mid-noughties, social media became a thing. So I was doing social media strategies, marketing strategies, all kinds of stuff. So I was a kind of ragbag, accidental coach / consultant, you know, jack of all trades. You know the rest of that phrase, obviously. And, you know, I just did that. I just kind of lived that till about 2013, 2014, when I realized I was burning out because I was just doing so much stuff, so many different things. I was just, you know, Jonny, the go-to guy for anything that you want kind of thing. And it just didn't feel right. I knew that wasn't scalable. I knew it wasn't sustainable because I was exhausted. And I don't know if you've ever done this, Joshua, but, you know, when you get in a client situation where you haven't got a defined role and the client just throws stuff at you, you end up really not earning what you're worth, and you end up working all the hours that you possibly can. So, you know, you kind of got that double whammy of being underpaid and overworked, which just sucked. You know, by 2014, I was meeting my now wife. You know, we were planning our family, which is actually my third family. Let's not go into that, but, you know, it's well, we can if you want, if we get time. But it's a blessing that, you know, I thank every day that I'm so lucky, you know, to have a young family again. So I realized I had to get my act together basically and build something that was a bit less stressful, more controllable, more driven by process and a system, and something that's scalable, you know. So I started studying some of your countrymen who are really crushing it, you know. I just did hundreds of bloody webinars, man. Hundreds of hours of study and signing up to people's funnels. And so I got into people like Frank Kern, Mike Dillard. You seen that guy?
Yep.
JLD, of course, John Lee Dumas, who I've been honored to have on my show actually this year. And subscription masters, people like Stu McLaren out of Canada, you know, does a big like subscription play. And these guys are all like, you know, multi-million-dollar internet marketers. And what I learned from them was some very, very simple basics, which I've kind of distilled into my 3 pillars of effortless marketing, you know. And by 2015, 2016, I was emerging into the Success Party, which is the brand that I created. And just the middle of last year, literally July 2017, I came up with Jonny Hates Marketing in the shower. It was just an idea, one of those incredible things. I thought, shit, that's it, because I genuinely do hate marketing, and everybody was going on at me about being authentic, you know, not making stuff up, not faking it, not being somebody you're not. And I'm just that guy who actually can't stand marketing, you know, all the gnarly, complex stuff, all the overwhelming. I don't know if you know, but I spotted this the other day. There are actually over 100 social media platforms out there with more than 1 million followers each. So, you know, if you went out and said, okay, I'm going to market my business on social media, that phrase is at the same time, you know, meaningless and completely overwhelming because it says nothing about, you know, what you're going to do with your business, even what your business is. So I realized that there's a whole piece before you get into all that, you know, before marketing, as I've called it. So my BM piece,
Yep.
which, you know, most people recognize this, but not a lot of people doing this right or effectively. So that the BM bit, you know, is about identifying who you are and what you do. So your superpower, if you like. Then it's about identifying really tightly who your ideal client is. And note, you know, it's a singular, ideal client, not clients. And then the third bit of the before marketing is working out your program. You know, what is it you're going to push out to the world? How are you going to deliver it? And that kind of brings me up to the present day now, where I'm actually working with a very defined audience for me of coaches, trainers, therapists, and consultants. So, you know, we call ourselves transformation professionals, don't we? Or change artists, whatever you want to call it. And those guys, you know, almost to a man, pretty much need this clarity, this simplicity, you know, this focus. Because, you know, the heart-centered entrepreneur industry, which is absolutely booming, is just full of people who can really impact on people's lives. But, you know, they're just shouting at the traffic, you know. They're just standing at the side of the freeway, shouting at the cars going past. They got no idea how to pin down their ideal clients, how to identify them and talk with them and engage with them and get them on board. And I'm just having such a great time now working with those people and, you know, bringing those simple little principles and that clarity into their lives so that they can bring their superpowers, you know, and then their great passion, they can bring it to the universe and find people to engage with, you know.
Yep. Love it, man. So quick question before we get into kind of start dissecting some of these. Do you feel that I know the coaching and consulting that you were doing prior was, like you said, a massive burnout, you know, right? Terrible quality of life, and it wasn't some joy. But do you feel that really helped lay the foundation because you really got to know the biggest problems that so many of these entrepreneurs had? Like, do you feel that was pretty foundational to allowing you to create the success that you created now?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think if you're looking to create a big change in your life, that there's what I call a pull motivation and a push motivation, isn't there? And, you know, for me, the pull motivation is towards the lifestyle that I want, which is location freedom, financial freedom and time freedom. You know, so I can spend time with the family, hang out wherever I want in the world and run the business from wherever I want in the world. But the big push motivation, as you've said, was, you know, just getting out of a lifestyle of exchanging time for money, because that's fundamentally what I was doing. You know, people were paying me by the hour or by the week or by the month. You know, it amounts to the same thing ultimately. You know, everyone's going to run out of hours and weeks and months in their life at some point. So exchanging something that's finite, which is the time in your life, for something that's infinite, you know, which is money. I'm sure you know, nobody would argue that there's an infinite supply of money in the world. You can prove that to yourself. There's an infinite supply of money in your own life. You know, the money that you spend on food and provisions this month isn't the same money you're spending on food and provisions next month. You know, it's different money. It's new money. There's always money around. So exchanging time for money just was the big push for me. I had to get away from doing that.
Yep.
And, you know, that the world that I'm in now, which is, you know, group coaching and, you know, helping exponential numbers of people with the same amount of time, is just, you know, the big transformation that I knew I had to make.
Yeah, love it. Now, you know, I love something that you said, which was, I know I need to make this change. But instead of just, hey, man, I'm going to take my best guess and go out there and go this path. I mean, you said you spent hundreds and hundreds of hours doing all these webinars, following the greats out there, and really mastering these different things. Is that all part of like the BM number one, which was identify your superpower? You know, right? Was that all kind of part of that, of doing that intense amount of research of like, what are these guys doing, and going through that journey allowed you to identify your superpower and then how you could bring that to light with this new product?
Yeah. I mean, they all said that, and they all still say that. I mean, you think people like Ryan Levesque, you know, with the Ask method. I mean, that is all about laser focus on, you know, a niche, on who your ideal client is, you know, the avatar work. And I've just been doing this today, actually, one of my group programs that I run on a Thursday. And we had the avatar module today, you know, and I get the guys to literally go on Google Images and download an image of what they think their ideal client looks like. You know, I have one called Derek, and Derek's a business coach in his mid-50s, and, you know, he's been doing it for 20 years. He exchanges his time for money, so he's run out of time before he's earned the money that he wants to earn. His wife hates him. She's about to leave him because he never has holidays, all this kind of stuff, you know. And with that level of detail in your avatar, it's just so massively powerful because, you know, you can then start to write your marketing messages directed at Derek, you know, when you know who Derek is and what his pain is, what problem he'd like to solve, you know, how you can solve it for him. So yeah, I mean, they're points 2 and 3 of the before marketing, the BM thing. The one, as you've said, is your superpower. The other one is who it's for, and the third one is how you deliver it. You know, so it's kind of, I'm a very kind of simple guy. I like to keep things nice and clean. Maybe I'm a bit OCD, you know, which kind of helps. So that those 3 things are very, very simply the what, the who, and the how. You know, the what you do, who it's for, and then how you deliver it. And, you know, what I learned from these greats, as you mentioned, you know, the Frank Kern, Mike DiLardo sort of people, is that they've got that absolutely nailed. You know, they know that 100% in their business, and their message, if people listen properly, is that we've got to do that in our business too. You know, because without that, you have nothing to market, and this is why I call it before marketing. And it just pains me to see people spending time, number one, but also spending money. You know, I met a guy the other day who's blowing 15 grand a month on Facebook ads, getting 1,500 quid back. So wasting 90% of his money. Yeah. Getting I don't know what the ROI is. Is it minus 10% or something? Yeah. It's not good news anyway, put it that way. And within 15 minutes of talking to him, I identified why it's not working, because he's no idea what his message is, or he has an incoherent message. He's no idea who his ideal clients are. So he's massively marketing to a very wide audience, which anybody with any, you know, knowledge of Facebook ads knows that that's the kiss of death if you don't identify your audience accurately. And he doesn't have a program. He was just spending 15 grand trying to get people to click on a link on his website, you know, to sign up for his email newsletter, you know, which is just BS, isn't it, really? So it really does resonate with me, and it did as soon as I heard all this stuff from these guys, that, man, this stuff is so foundational, and it's transferable. You know what? So it applies in any business, any industry, you know, any business that you're trying to market, certainly online. You know, those 3 things are just so critical.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the technology that exists in, you know, like this is something that Ryan Levesque really pushes in his programs, but is surveying your people, you know, right? Or just doing surveys. I mean, you can find out what their problem is, what to solve. I mean, you can do so much.
Yeah.
You know, again, due diligence with very little. A question that I have is, you know, as far as okay, let's just say somebody identifies their superpower. You know, hopefully for most people, they can kind of grasp that or go, you know, take some different personality profile testing and identifying that and hone that in. But when it comes to identifying your ideal client, like if you don't know, if you're like, well, you know, I don't really know how to hone that in and who that image would look like. What are some tips of where you coach your clients to even start to find your ideal client?
Yeah, I mean, what I do on my program, Joshua, is I make it clear that your ideal client, whereas you need to identify an ideal client, you know, singular, for the purposes of the program, which then takes us through, you know, your messaging and your signature program, and then your delivery method. It doesn't have to be one client for the rest of your life. So if you feel that, as some people do, you know, because they get really uncomfortable, I see them wriggling around, you know, when we're talking about this, and the discomfort comes from the feeling that they're leaving people out, they're leaving money behind because they could be dealing with these people and these people and these people. But the message is simply this, that, you know, you can't market to a whole bunch of different audiences all at once. It's an impossibility, you know, given the systems and processes and platforms that we have to use to get out there. All these platforms beg you to identify your client clearly, otherwise they're just going to waste your time and money, you know. So that's the first thing, that identifying the one client doesn't mean that you're leaving everybody behind forever. You can come back to other types of clients later. So the art to identify an ideal client is actually often looking back at people you've dealt with in the past. And there's a kind of holy grail, isn't there, of clients that were really great to deal with when we look back in our past and we think, who's our favorite client? Yeah. And for me, the three elements that make up a favorite client are simply this, that you enjoyed working with them. So, it appealed to you, your heart and soul said that, I'm digging this. Number two, that you had an impact on them. So whatever you were doing had a transformational impact on them. And thirdly, that they paid you well. Yeah, that you got paid for it. So you enjoyed it, they enjoyed it, and you got paid. And if you can think of a client, you're probably going to need one client that you can name and look back on where you've had that kind of experience. Then why not clone it? Why not make that your client for now and say, well, what are the distinguishing characteristics of that client then? Yeah. What made that client who he or she was? What made the experience enjoyable for me? What enabled me to have a transformational impact on his life? And how and why was he able to pay me what I asked and what I was worth? And if you can clone those characteristics into somebody else, then that's your avatar, isn't it? You go out and look for more people like that. And, without stating the bleeding obvious, sometime if you go back to that client, you can probably work with them again. Yeah, probably re-engage them, do more work with them, with that actual person I'm talking about here, yeah, without having to find anybody new. And if not that, you can have a conversation along the lines of, Derek, when we worked together, I really enjoyed it. You got a great transformational impact. Who else do you know right now who might benefit from the kind of work that we did? And just get him to give you one name of somebody else. I mean, that's effortless marketing personified, isn't it? If your ideal client can name one of his buddies also like him, who he's testified to you that has got the same problems he has. So, folks, this stuff isn't rocket science. It's not complex, and I overwhelm easily. Believe me, I get easily overwhelmed, which is why Jonny hates marketing. When I think of marketing in its broadest sense as a complete world of all the different crazy stuff I could be doing, I get a headache, I get a migraine, So, all this simple stuff I'm talking about now, about thinking about your perfect client from way back and cloning them into the present day, either literally the same client or somebody they know, or go out to the wider world and find somebody like them. This is pretty basic stuff. It doesn't seem to me like it's particularly complicated.
Yeah. No, I agree. And well, a lot of people, business is simplistic, right? Get overcomplicated.
Should be, shouldn't it?
But people just don't, I think, slow down enough to really hone this stuff in and see the importance of it. So when it's working out and developing your program, right? Because it's one of these things where we might think that this program is stellar. Like, we've got our ideal client, we know our superpower, but then, you put all this time and energy and effort into it, and you realize it's not a product fit. Are there things that you recommend to do? I mean, are you surveying, people that would meet your ideal client to get feedback of how to structure this, or, what are some suggestions there?
Yeah, I mean, the development cycle for my current group program, I mean, it's ongoing actually, still evolving. I'm still optimizing it, so every iteration of it, I think, is a little bit more client appropriate and more effective and more impactful and more value. Of course, don't tell the people who are on my last one about that, but it's getting better. But here's the glide slope to actually the group program. And it's this: don't do a group program to start with, because you don't know enough about your market, you don't know enough about your clients. You need to do some one-on-one first, and the coaching pyramid for me is one-on-one through to group programs. And then, maybe on the horizon for me in 2019, 2020 is putting some digital programs together, once I've learned really deeply about who my client is and what they want and what he or she wants. So what I did when I kicked off on this, I started talking to people about it on the basis of engaging them as one-to-one clients. And the discovery call would go something like this. Tell me about your biggest challenges at the moment. What kind of problems you're feeling? What's the real ball ache for you right now? And they talk for 15, 20 minutes about that. And, I've been nodding and listening. And I'd say, well, okay, if I could, if we could work together for the next 3 months, what would be your dream outcome? Where would you like to be in 3 months where you're not now? What's your desired future reality? What would make you look back in 3 months and say, Johnny's a freaking genius? Yeah. And they designed the program at that point. The answer to that question designs the program, doesn't it? Because they tell you what they want you to do for them. Yeah. And if you write all that down and you collate the results of 10 or 12 or 15 of those conversations, you're going to have a pretty good handle on what your ideal client wants, because you've discovered it. And I think this is a lot about what Ryan Levesque does with his Ask method kind of thing. But for me, it was a more manual, more organic. And just armed with that data, then I just became really good at delivering impactful one-on-one coaching. And I did that for pretty much most of last year, because bear in mind I kicked this off in March 2017. So I'm talking about just a 12-month, period from launching the Success Party to where we're sitting and talking right now. So it's probably 6 months of one-to-one. And by October last year, I was putting together my group program, 12 modules based on 12 of the key things that my one-to-one clients had told me they wanted. So it was me just feeling my way, and having the confidence as a coach to know that whatever the answer to that question, if you remember the question was, what would be a great outcome in 3 months' time? What would make you look back and say, Johnny's a freaking genius? I always knew that whatever they said, I would be able to deliver it. And I knew that they couldn't ask me to do anything that I wasn't capable of doing. Because they never do they? If you're asking somebody those questions, there's always a way that you can work out how to solve it, even if you don't know right at the time. I don't know about you, but when I'm coaching, I've always worked on the basis that, it's great to be massively knowledgeable and, a huge authority figure. But in reality, if you're just one step ahead of your client, you can impact them, can't you?
Yep.
You can move them forward even if you're just one step ahead. So I always knew that the answers to those questions were never going to be out of my remit, out of my reach. And then, as I say, morphing the one-to-one coaching into group coaching just seemed a natural step for me. And it's one of those win-win things. You hear this glibly thrown around, but the reason it's win-win is that the client gets access to me through a group coaching program at a much reduced price, around about half the price of getting me on one-to-one. And I get to earn twice as much because I coach maybe 4 people at a time instead of just one at twice the price, if that makes sense. 4 is the minimum. I mean, I've got 6 people on the program for April. And my goal's, probably 8. I think 8 is the critical mass, really, beyond which you're probably not giving people enough personal time, personal attention. So, but it's pretty cool. I mean, if you think about this, you set up a program that costs half as much as your one-to-one, and you get 8 people on it at a time. You've already 4x'd your revenue compared with one-to-one, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, what I love about the group platform is, you get all the benefits of the one-to-one, but then also the collaboration and masterminding that happens.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And I find it, like, I would way prefer going through a group format as the client than I would.
I would, yeah.
Because that masterminding, those relationships are so powerful.
I know. Well, they're meeting other people at the same stage as them, aren't they? And I don't think it's always good to go through life just meeting like-minded individuals. I mean, sometimes it's great to meet some, iconic entrepreneurs who are completely crushing it and get some ideas from them. But I think in a learning environment, it's great to be seated with people who are kind of, at the same stage as you, so you can grow together. And I'm guessing you use Zoom, which is the platform we're on now for your group coaching. But have you done the breakout room stuff?
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the really cool features in Zoom is breakout rooms. And today, with the guys I had on the session, every sort of 15 minutes or so, I would call a breakout room for 5 or 10 minutes, and they'd go off and do a task. And Zoom pairs people up, so it puts them in breakout room with just one other person. And you set them a task. In this case, it was developing a strap line, basically for a Facebook group or a website headline, something like that, to tell people what you do in one sentence. And they went off and beavered away, and I brought them back into the main room then 10 minutes later, and everybody was like massively fired up and energized. They'd been talking to each other. They had one private kind of conversation where they could, brainstorm. And we've got these tools at our disposal, and, we're at a point in history where, we're the first people ever to have all this crazy stuff that we can use and, and leverage. And I'm just such a great believer, advocate, of all this stuff. And if I look back, people who were trying to coach in the kind of 80s and 90s, they had a much harder job, I think, than we've got now, haven't they?
Yep, love it. So, and then what I really dig about those discovery calls that you talked about and going through that process is not only does it help you develop your product to be able to go out there and solve their problems and deliver that experience, like you said, that, hey, Jonny is a genius by the time this is over.
Yeah.
It also, I got to imagine, that it's helping you identify and be able to craft, once you start marketing, what those messages are going to be like, right? Like if you're running webinars to
100%. Yeah.
like now, hey, that this gives me the webinar topics, right? All of those, which then leads to helping with the marketing. So,
yeah. Well, I can give you a direct example of that. I mean, when I asked one guy that, he said, I would like a way to find clients without spending 8 hours a day on Facebook. I went, okay. So one of my marketing messages now, would you like to find clients without spending 8 hours a day on Facebook? It's just, they write the stuff for you if you ask the right questions. Your clients tell you what you should be asking the next client, So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, love it. So then at this point, let's just say, okay, you got the 3 before marketing components dialed in. You're really confident with those, and then when the marketing component comes in, and you've got this effortless marketing strategy that you follow. How does that come into play? Like, how do you put all these pieces together and now go out there and market what you have?
Well, number one is consistency. So the messages that you've gleaned from the type of conversations that we've just been discussing have to be the messages that you put out there. So I don't want any of my potential clients to see me any differently on LinkedIn or in my Facebook group or in my daily emails or on my website. So everything's got to be locked down, and the same old message has got to be there. And I think the reason that people drift away from that is that they get bored themselves. They get bored with hearing their own voice. Yeah, they get bored with seeing the same messages. They get bored with writing the same old stuff. But here's the thing, guys. It's not about you. It's about your ideal clients. It's about your prospects. And of course, your prospects are not bored. Your prospects simply want to hear the answers to the questions that they're asking themselves. So, consistency is the number one. In terms of identifying the platforms, it varies a bit from business to business, but generally, in my world with the transformation professionals, if they're B2C, as we call it, just dealing with members of the public, then Facebook and specifically Facebook groups are where it's at right now. That could change any time, of course. I mean, who knows what, Zuck's got in mind for us in the next year or so. But I can tell you right here, right now, there is no better way to engage with your ideal clients than Facebook groups. If you're more kind of B2B, so, if you deal with, as one of my clients did today in my program, she deals with C-level executives who are burnt out, stressed like crazy. She can find them on LinkedIn because, as you know, you can search LinkedIn for CEOs, CFOs, CMOs, CDOs, all that kind of stuff. And just send them, your same consistent message. Are you stressed? Are you burned out? Is your wife about to leave you? Have you not had a holiday in 2 years? All this kind of stuff, which she knows her ideal clients are all suffering with and from. So that's a playground for people looking for to identify people by their corporate niche, their corporate titles. Me, I just tend to play around in my Facebook group, and Jonny X Marketing's only been live since July, and I'm just about to crack 3,500 members, I think, this month, probably next month, certainly. And just loads of engagement. So there's a few cool little tricks, like the right kind of pinned post to put at the start of the group to draw people in, encourage them to interact and engage. The right kind of posts. I mean, I do a Facebook masterclass once a month, which is a 3-hour masterclass. It's not a webinar; it's an online masterclass, on Zoom. So obviously, I can't cover everything that I cover in that, but just to give you a flavour. And you probably know this too. If you post in Facebook with an external link in it, like some cool news item or a quote from Richard Branson on his website, you think you're being smart. In actual fact, Facebook will just push that right down the feed. Nobody gets to see it. You get no engagement, and it's just crickets, as you say in the States. Whereas if you do a live video, for instance, particularly a live interview, then Facebook shows that to everybody because Facebook wants to be the new YouTube, doesn't it? It wants to be a video platform. So there's nuances, and we're talking literally micro tactics here, that you do on a hour by hour, day by day basis, and anybody on the program gets access to all that stuff tailored to their business as well. So what I try and do over 12 weeks is the foundational stuff, and then moving into the specific marketing strategies and tactics that are going to suit them and make their business fly as easily as possible, and without spending money on advertising. Because one thing I've learned from these guys is that until you've got a 6-figure business, don't even think about spending money on advertising. Yeah. Just not necessary, and maybe way beyond 6 figures as well. I mean, I know somebody in the UK who's doing 250 sterling without spending a penny on advertising. Just all organic with the kind of stuff that you and I are talking about right now.
Yeah. So I know, with your group coaching platform right now, you're not spending a lot of money, right? And you've got, of course, your podcast, you've got this Facebook group inside there, but in these Facebook groups, and I think Facebook groups are huge and just such an underutilized tool out there because it just deepens that connection that you have with them.
Well, underused and misused as well. I mean, that's the thing. Tons of people have groups and they go, "Oh, my group's not really working." Well,
Yeah. Yep. Well, speaking of that, because I think Facebook groups are something. I don't care what industry that you're in, you can go out there and number one, it's free to do and build, and but a difficult thing is getting that engagement, and then also getting that engagement in a way of like, hey, why would I go pay Jonny this money for his 12-week course? Because I already get all the information that I need in here. So it's kind of that fine line where you want to give them great information, have that impact, develop that connection, but then sell that value, but not devalue your program, right? So like, what are some strategic ways that you do that to get that engagement, but they still then has that value of your program?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, tons of people ask that all the time. And it is simpler than you might think. People actually don't want information. They react to information, they read it, and some people like it and heart it and do the little emoji at it. But that's not what people want. People want results, don't they? And reading information, digesting information, hardly ever translates into results unless you're a hugely motivated person and you're very single-minded on, putting into action for yourself everything that you read. But you know what people are like? People don't do that. People don't do that. You give somebody a book to read, that's a great book that people should be reading. But I bet 90% of the people who got this book don't do any of the stuff that's in it, because it's such a dry way of, such a dry way of learning, isn't it? Reading for yourself. And what people want, what we all want, what I want, is I want somebody to hold my hand and help me and hold me to account for doing stuff. It's all right reading a chapter from Steve Chandler and you think, Jesus, what a great idea. But it's a massive leap to then actually putting that into practice for yourself and showing up day by day and doing the daily grind and the hustle and all the stuff that needs to be done. And we all need coaches. You've seen that quote from not Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, who says everybody needs a coach. He's got a coach. Jesus. Bill Gates has got a coach. The richest man in the world has got a coach. I've got a coach. I'm guessing you've got a coach. So giving information to people is never going to be a substitute for coaching them. And it's never going to preclude you coaching them. In fact, just the opposite. If you give people information and value and they see something that resonates and they go, Jonny knows what he's on about, I need to work with Jonny. It's not Jonny knows what he's on about, thanks very much, I'm off. Yeah, it's the opposite. It's Jonny knows what he's on about, I want to know more, I want him to work with me. And that's always a result. So, if anyone's listening to this thinking, what is the point of me writing all this stuff and all this content and putting it out there? Well, the point is that people will then understand what your superpower is, and you'll start to establish yourself as an expert, morphing into an authority in your sector, and people will want to work with you. I did a discovery call just today. This guy said to me, "I'm so loving the stuff you're doing, and I've been really looking forward to talking with you. Because I get the daily emails and yeah, so it never stops you making a sale. You can't put too much stuff out there. I don't believe that. I'm a content junkie in terms of not just absorbing, but in producing. So I write my daily brain tattoo every single day, every single day. And my Facebook group and my email list gets, something of value from me every day for free. And then a proportion of those every day just decide, I've seen enough of this stuff, I want to work with Jonny. That's how it goes.
Yeah, love it. So then, do you do anything inside the Facebook group? Because I've got a big Facebook group of almost 11,000 people in there.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well done on that. Kudos.
Yeah, thank you. And it's again, it's trying to engage it and do all of those things. But one of the things that I don't like about it, unlike, let's just say they were to like a fan page where I can, get different insights, target them with different things. Like Facebook doesn't allow us to really do anything with that data inside that Facebook group, retargeting with different ads or messages. Do you have a strategy, or do you do anything with, whether it's a survey or some piece of content or getting them to opt in? I know you mentioned that the Bitly links that you place in there can kind of hinder you, but how do you get them from there to take action, get on your email list to market to them in a different way?
So any links I leave out of the post and just stick them in the comments. So I schedule, because Facebook allows you to schedule posts within Facebook itself. So you don't get the hit that you might get if you use Buffer or Deliver It or one of these other external third-party schedulers. So I've lined up some posts for tomorrow in the group. I think there's 3 or 4 going out there. When they land, I will just wait till 1 or 2 people have commented, and then I'll put a comment in with a link, to the program. So it's my kind of ABO stuff. So I'll know at that point that the 2 or 3 people who've already liked it or commented on it will see the other comment, because Facebook notifies you when somebody else comments on a post that you've commented on, doesn't it? So that's a pretty cool way to kind of just, add a postscript to the post as well. But I just keep an eye on what people are saying, how people are reacting, what they're commenting on, and I'll just pull them out into a direct message conversation and say, hey, thanks for commenting on the post. What particularly resonated? And they'll say something like, hey, yeah, I'm just struggling a bit at the moment with my messaging. I'm not sure who my audience is, this sort of thing. Josh, there's only a list of about 10 things that people say that they're struggling with. So, once you got to grips with what they are, there's always a gentle conversation to have to say, well, look, why don't we jump on a call and, see if anything emerges, my treat. I just post a scheduling link. So the whole engagement thing could be, I post in the group, somebody comments on it, I pull them out into a direct message, including a scheduling link, and I'm on Zoom talking with them within 24 hours. So it's a very kind of short timeline, and they could be on a program, subject to how good I am on that discovery call, I guess. There's a conversion rate, as you know. But, a number of people that you get on that discovery call are going to buy something. And, if this seems like hard work and not scalable, I can say that with a group program like this, where my goals for this year are just to get between 4 and maybe 6 to 8 people on each month, this is not a lot of conversations you need to have. You need to be getting one and a half people on the course every single week, six sales a month, basically. So this is not a huge task either in terms of the number of conversations you have to have or the number of clients you need to convert, to meet revenue goals. It's just about pricing the product right, isn't it? So that you don't need to sell too many to earn a living, basically.
Yeah, love it. So then, I think of, okay, like the difference between effortless marketing and marketing that takes effort is, when we go back to your story and your journey, when you were selling the windows, right? Banging on all those doors, that's marketing that takes massive effort. I got to bang on 9 doors to get a yes. But then we went to the financial services and you figure out a way to, hey man, we create all this content that's sent to them and it gets our phone to ring. And I think, dude, I don't know whatever space that they're in, one business owner that doesn't just want their phone to ring. Right? Instead of picking up that phone and just dialing, or door knocking or whatever it may be. I mean, is that really the key to effortless marketing of crafting a message, sending it out, whether it's daily or consistently, like your brain tattoo, which is every day, right? But that then just funnels them back to you where you're not chasing.
Yeah, totally. And, I've described some of my kind of direct interventions where I'll jump on a direct message, but, I get 3-4 direct messages a day from people saying, saw your broadcast, saw you live with JLD or somebody, whoever it was, or saw your email today, really loved it. And they start the conversation, and that just gives you permission then to say, well, hey, let's jump on a call, my treat, let's see what pops out, And I have this, I use You Can Book Me, which is a pretty cool scheduling thing that links to the Google Calendar. The other thing I'm passionate about, particularly this year as I'm scaling, is, getting as much as possible automated and delegated. So I've done some really deep work into logging my processes. So just writing everything down that I do during the day. And I've started crossing stuff off that I don't need to do, that either doesn't need doing at all. And there is some stuff that, we all do that doesn't need doing at all. We shouldn't be doing it. But, the other stuff is stuff which I don't need to do that somebody else could do. And I've hooked up with a really cool bunch of guys in the UK who run a business called World Outsourcing Solutions. And you probably guess what they do from the name, WOS, World Outsourcing Solutions. They're a really cool bunch of guys. I've got a wonderful VA who, Josh, actually contacted you, I believe. That's why we're talking now. Yeah. So she's only been at it for 10 days and she's got me maybe 7 conversations like this lined up in 10 days. Now, I couldn't have done that. That would have taken me a year to do that, fitting it in with all the other stuff. and she's much better at it than I am, I'm sure. And that's just one of the functions which, you know, I don't want to be doing myself ever. So, you know, if you know, anybody listening wants to try this exercise, just do this. You know, when you wake up tomorrow morning, get a clean sheet of paper. I use completely white pad, an artist pad like this with no lines on, nothing to distract me. And I just write down everything I do in the day, from morning till night, everything. You know, from making a coffee to getting up, you know, going for a wee, who I've called, who I've spoken to, pretty much every click of the mouse, yeah. And if you do that for a week, you discover a whole bunch of stuff that you don't have to do, certainly that somebody else could do, or that you could automate. And I've been really fanatical about automation tools as well. You know, stuff like emails that I've been crafting and handcrafting. I just realized that I could put them into an automation funnel. You know, I use Active Campaign. I don't know what you use.
Yeah, Infusionsoft is what I,
Yeah, right. But so I've been using that an awful lot more and just digging into the functionality and, you know, letting it serve me and support me and that kind of stuff. And you know, I think that the scalability of a business like ours is just to do the stuff which only you can do. You know, just do the stuff that only you can do, and leave everything else to either somebody else or to an automation tool, or just don't do it. You know, just eliminate it.
Well, and you know, you alluded to this earlier, but we live in this insane, amazing era that just, I mean, with all the technology that exists out there and these amazing VA companies that you can outsource to for, I mean, pennies on the dollar of what it would cost to bring a full-on staff member in-house and have to provide benefits and all this stuff for. It's just insane, man.
Yeah. The scale of opportunity is truly amazing, but it's also overwhelming as well. If all you say to yourself is, wow, what a massive opportunity I've got, you know, you have to drill down a little bit and decide exactly what it is you're going to do and who you're going to do it for, you know, just going back to where we started.
Yep. Love it. So, you know, Jonny, I know we've talked about your website, Facebook group, your podcast, and man, your podcast this is one of these podcasts that everybody that's listening needs to go check out. And there's so many different, just amazing topics that can help any entrepreneur, whether it's mastering LinkedIn or systems processes. I mean, so much different stuff. You know, can you just name those again of, you know, what the podcast is, how to get into the Facebook group? And, you know, for any of those that are watching and listening that want to talk to you about your group program, like where's the best place to go do that?
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Well, in actual fact, I'm a little bit ashamed because I've suspended my podcast. I found that it was taking up too much time, and it was another marketing channel for me just to overwhelm myself with. So knowing that the Facebook group's working as well as it did, I decided to focus down on that. I do actually have 4 podcasts out there. They're called Jonny Hates Marketing, as you might imagine. So that was the first product that I branded with the JHM brand. So you can easily find it, obviously, on iTunes. The Facebook group is called Jonny Hates Marketing, and I encourage anyone to gravitate towards that and join. If you're in my ideal clientele, I will, you know, I'll join you in the group and we can engage. It'll be fabulous. My group program is called the Client Attraction Blueprint. So the CAB, Client Attraction Blueprint. And they can get that from the successparty.com. So that's my business website. So the successparty.com, and just click on Client Attraction Blueprint on the menu, and you'll find it. But, you know, I'm happy, you know, to just get you in the group and just start a conversation because, you know, let's be realistic, guys. The Client Attraction Blueprint or anybody else's program isn't for everybody. And I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast won't be a suitable fit for it. And I'd be perfectly happy if you guys just headed over to the group, the Jonny Hates Marketing Facebook group, and, you know, we can engage and feel each other out. And if it's a fit, we can talk about the Client Attraction Blueprint from there, basically.
Yeah, love it. And those that are watching, listen, we'll make it super easy. I know there's going to be links right below for all of that, so you can connect with them and
Yeah, awesome.
inside the Facebook group. You guys, amazing content. Highly recommend that you jump in there.
Great stuff.
So, Jonny, knowing everything that you know now today, if you could go back to yourself, when you started this journey, with knowing everything you know now today, you could give yourself just 2 pieces of advice that you feel would have massively fast forwarded your trajectory to the success path that you're on right now. What would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
2 pieces of advice. Yeah, okay. Well, let's just do 2 of the BM stuff then. Understand what you bring to the world, and understand who it's for. Yeah, what do you do and who do you do it for?
Yep, love it. Powerful stuff. And those that are watching and listening, I know I end every podcast with this, but information without implementation truly is just a start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and taking action on it that creates the power in your world for you to create the life you know you want and deserve. And Jonny shared so many
100%.
amazing pieces of information that can create massive power in your world for you to go out there and again create the life you know you want and deserve. So make sure that you take that information that you learned today, take immediate action on it. Go join the Facebook group. And again, all those links will be below. And Jonny, I know this has been a gnarly day for you. I know it's super late where you're at. And this has been a massive honor having me on the show. I truly appreciate taking time to be here.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Thanks for inviting me. Really enjoyed it. Hey, listen, Josh, as well, you should come on one of my live shows too in the group.
I'd love to.
We'll schedule that sometime soon.
Yeah, it'd be a massive honor. Absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, thank you again for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.
Cool.